Let's see how to set up checklists. Click on Vehicles, then enter the configuration screen for a specific vehicle. Then click on Checklists. On this screen, you determine how the checklist will work. You can set an interval in minutes. That is, you can have the checklist, for example, be presented every hour. Or you can select an interval of minutes that the device works, i.e., the operator swipes the badge on the device, and when an hour of badge use has passed, the system will show the checklist. Or you can set specific times, such as 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. At these specific times, the system will send the questions. If the operator is using the vehicle, the system will not lock the vehicle for him to answer the questions. But as soon as he turns off the vehicle, the checklist will be offered to the next operator. Or again, you can trigger the checklist every time the user changes. For example, operator A logs into the vehicle. The system proposes the questions to him. The operator drives, works, gets out of the vehicle, and logs out. Operator B then arrives, swipes his badge to use it, and the system shows him the checklist. If operator B then logs out of the vehicle and reuses it at a later time, then he does not have to recompile the checklist because there was no change of user. Now, let's enter the questions. Click on the New button in the Question section. Scroll to the bottom to set the question. Set what kind of answer you want. If you do not enter the check on Correct Answer KO, the system expects a positive answer. For example, for the question, "Are the brakes working properly?" the check should not be entered. So type the question in the question space. To check whether the brakes actually work, you can activate the vehicle temporarily by putting the check at Temporary Activation and setting the time in the appropriate field. So the operator can use the vehicle for 20 seconds to check whether the brakes work, and thus give the answer. You can also set the number of attempts the operator has. For example, 3 times the operator can unlock the car for 20 seconds and give the answer. You can also set whether the question is answered mandatorily. That is, whether the question cannot be skipped. To do this, enter the check at Mandatory Test. If the answer the system receives is wrong, you can decide to lock the vehicle by putting the check mark on Lock. In this case, if the answer is wrong, you need the badge enabled to remove the lock from checklist. Then there are other settings, such as the Quick Checklist. If you do not enter the check, the procedure will be as follows. The operator arrives at the car, swipes the badge, answers the questions. At the end of the questions, swipes the badge, thus confirming the identity of the person who answered the questions, and swipes the badge again to use the vehicle. If, on the other hand, you put the check on Quick Checklist, the procedure is as follows. The operator arrives at the machine, passes the badge, answers the questions, swipes the badge again, and the operator results as the one who answered the questions and is already logged into the vehicle. You can enter the check on the Mandatory Compilation item to make the checklist compulsory. In the Minimum Compilation Time field, set the minimum time required to compile the checklist. To save all changes on the page, click on the floppy disk icon at the top. Suppose you want to save this configuration because you have other devices to configure in the same way. Click on Status and scroll to the bottom. Click Import Export and select Checklist, and then click on the Export icon. Then go into another device, follow the same procedure, and click on Import.